I'm Rendan, and this is the Suicide Squad. Or Suicide Squad 2?
Robert Dubois. He's in prison for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet.
I'm not joining your Suicide Squad.
So this is James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and it's less a follow-up to Suicide Squad and more of a reinvention, we'll say. It's got a lot of the same characters, it follows sort of a similar type of plot, and in general is a Suicide Squad movie. So you'd think it would be a sequel, but at no point does it even mention the first one. They're new characters, there's a new mission, and it seems to be trying to shove to the side the old one, and rightfully so. I mean, the 2016 Suicide Squad movie is not only one of the worst superhero movies, but it was literally one of the worst movies of that year. It was absolutely awful.
What was that? I should kill everyone and escape? Sorry. The voices. I'm kidding. That's not what they really said.
This is the movie that it feels like James Gunn is good at. I mean, I really like the other two Guardians of the Galaxy. In fact, I think I like them more than this, but this type of ultra-violent, super crass, gross, disturbing crap, filth, slop is what James Gunn is good at. He was made for this type of thing. He came up in the trauma video world, which is just a bunch of nonsense.
Drop your tacos or I'll blow your brains out! Rico, get the cash with us. Okay, you got it.
What makes James Gunn is his ability to not only have this ultra-violent, ultra-crass, gross, disturbing filth, but he also is able to balance it with lighthearted humor, and sometimes not so lighthearted humor, and genuinely interesting characters, which is the case for this movie. Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Super, all of his movies he has made very irreverently, but the characters have been the heart of it. They've always been the central part of the movie. You always are connected to them. They always have something they're struggling with or trying to work for. And the Suicide Squad is no different. Most of the characters are actually pretty interesting and endearing, and that was the biggest surprise of the movie. I really liked this band of misfits that they assembled. Polka Dot Man is my favorite. I love him. I also enjoyed how dumb this is. The story gets really stupid, and it knows that it's really stupid. And it doubles down on that by having a gigantic 5-story tall wobbling starfish walking around in a fake country, demolishing buildings and using mini starfishes to control other people so that it can talk through them. It's dumb, but it knows it's dumb, and it has fun with it, and the characters are aware that it's dumb. The audience is aware that it's dumb. The writer's aware that it's dumb. Everyone knows that it's dumb, which means that it works. If the giant waddling starfish that toppled buildings just by moving around and was screaming out of little, like, pores in its arms showed up in Zack Snyder's Justice League, that would not work at all. But when you've built up so much good grace with these wacky characters doing these wacky things and having a guy whose name is Polka Dot Man throw polka dots at people, it's fine to have a gigantic lumbering starfish waddling around and flipping its arms about. It's great. It's really fun. The end of this movie is really, really fun. And I think mainly that's because you are very involved with these characters, you're very on board with them at that point, because the story itself isn't that interesting. It's very simple. It's these characters have to go do a thing, and then there's some wacky hijinks that happens and some shenanigans along the way. It's a very simple premise, but it's mostly the characters that have to work in that premise, and they do pretty well. There's some that, you know, they're not the greatest, and I should say that none of the characters are like full-bodied or like super well-developed. They're not in Martin Scorsese movies or anything like that, but they get the job done. You like them, and that's way more than I can say for the 2016 Suicide Squad, which had the most insufferable band of horrible people that were not fun to be around. in the world. And one thing I liked about this is, in the first 5 minutes, it kind of wipes out a lot of expectations from the 2016 one, in that it murders a lot of characters.
Destroy every trace of something known only as Project Starfish. Any questions?
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
No.
However, the things I do have problems with are mostly technical, honestly. And that's the weirdest part about this movie. I really enjoyed the movie, and I think I will have a blast watching it again. It is a bit of an acquired taste. The first 10 minutes are kind of the most off-putting part of the movie. It's so jumbled, it's so messy, and it's so violent right out of the gate. It's hard to wrap your head around properly, and it's so quickly paced, it's hard to keep up with it at times, especially at the start. It's like, oh, this guy is in the thing, okay, he's getting a thing in his neck, and they're out on the beach, and everyone's dead. And the shots, the way it's shot is, I don't want to say ugly, but at times borderline ugly. There are parts of this movie that are kind of gross looking. It cuts to these really bizarre angles. There's one shot where it's just shooting through like a fence for no reason, and then it goes to the right, and then people are there. I don't know why he had to shoot it like that. There's just a lot of weird angles. It feels like James Gunn is just experimenting, and a lot of the movie is handheld. It's just like zipping around, which I like energetic camera movement, and there's a lot of times in this movie where the camera movement was great. Just like, okay, there's this thing happening, and we're zipping over here, and there's things happening. It's usually pretty well balanced, but there are just those times when it cuts to the most bizarre angle, and it completely throws me out of the movie. And then like 10 minutes go by and nothing happens, and then it cuts to this really weird angle, or this crazy frenetic camera work that just was like off-putting. It's bizarre. It's really, really strange. And then the music, dude. Oh, the music, not for me. I mean, there's a lot of pop songs because the 2016 one had a lot of pop songs, and also Guardians has a lot of pop songs. Sometimes they work, sometimes they help the scene, but sometimes it's just like, we're playing this pop song to kind of stitch two scenes together, and then once the scenes are stitched, then the pop song just kind of like fades out, and it has no greater purpose to the story. And the stuff that isn't pop songs, the composed orchestrated pieces, are the most melodramatic things that have ever been created by mankind. There are so many moments when they're like hunkering down and the music gets all upbeat, and or there's a sad moment, it's those violins coming in. I don't love that.
This is suicide.
Well, that's kind of our thing.
I'm a superhero!
In the end, there's not a whole lot to talk about with Suicide Squad outside of those few things. Characters are really solid. The story is simple, but works for what it is. It's dumb, it's fun, it knows it's dumb, and it knows it's fun. So overall, it's a pretty enjoyable experience. I had myself laughing quite a few times during it. It was a good time. I didn't feel the pacing was bad at any point, really. It's really energetic. In fact, it's almost too fast-paced at times. And the editing, some of the shots, and most of the music didn't really work for me. But aside from that, it's an enjoyable superhero movie. It's probably the best of the DC movies, which admittedly is a little bit of a low bar, but it's probably the best. So in the end, I'd give it a 6, maybe a 7. Maybe a 7 on rewatch, depending on some things. But we'll see. I'll stick with a 6 for now. If you want to see it, you probably already have. Yeah.